Hello, I'm Rebecca of the Garden Gate Flower Company.
And I'm Grace of Grace Alexander Flowers.
And we've come together to create Stuart and Alexander Gather at the Garden Gate.
A podcast taking you behind the scenes of two gardens, what we've been up to, inside, outside, and out and about.
Good morning, Grace, and welcome everybody to Stuart and Alexander. And I can't believe this, we're doing a morning podcast.
We are. Feel a bit groggy. Had for 2 cups of tea.
I'm on my, I think about third, I can't remember, because I've been up really early this morning to be able to squeeze episode 7 in.
Oh, very grateful. It's quite nice, isn't it, though? It's a crisp autumnal morning here, so I'm feeling quite ready for it.
I'm delighted because although it is grey here, the last few days I have seen that huge, great big ball of fire in the sky with amazing blue skies. And I will say it's brilliant because I just feel like we needed that. We needed some light. We needed a bit of cold. I don't know what anyone thinks, but I know you're in for autumn and winter. You were in for autumn and winter in August, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I check out quite quickly out of the summer. Yeah. So the anticyclonic gloom that I think we were all under in the UK lifted, and I had to find my sunglasses yesterday because I was trying to drive in the sunshine and it was just absolutely glorious. But yes, I went up to the top road to Wellington, which is where all the beech trees are. And they've been a bit turny and I've been like, oh, that's pretty. And oh, yeah, it's all right. And then it's just like someone has sprinkled gold leaf over everything. Like it just, within 24 hours, was just astonishingly beautiful. Just gorgeous.
Therein lies a question. Was it always there, or were the lights just not turned up? Because it's a bit of that.
I think the trees changed. I think the chlorophyll, because what it is, it's not that the yellow comes in, it's that the green goes away and then we see the yellow. And I think it changed.
It changed with that sun and the dry, It's fabulous. I'm just going to go right in there. Should we go right in there with stuff that we've been doing? What do you want to start or me start?
You start.
Okay.
You start with your in.
Okay, I'm going to start with my in. I do feel like a bit of a headless chicken, I will say. I'm having a very busy time at the moment. But my in, whilst not arranging for my teenage son to be leaving the country on Sunday, which is very exciting for him. He's been really poorly and missed his first flight out to Asia for his big gap year, didn't he? I was talking to you about this. He is now going on Sundays. In between organising bits and pieces for him and doing lots of nice family things, I have also been ordering a lot of stock for The Story of Emily. And I'm very excited because one of the tasks that I've got is to decorate 2 of the trees in the rectory. And
beautiful.
I know. And do you know what? It's funny, really, because when I lived in Bath had the most beautiful, I think it was called, I want to say it was something like Hansel and Gretel on Henrietta Street. I might have got that name wrong, but it reminded me of Hansel and Gretel. I think it was actually called that. And it was on Henrietta Street. And we used to live in a flat on Marlborough Buildings. And they used to do Christmas beautifully because it was Christmas style. And we used to have spiced cinnamon, hot chocolate, all that sort of stuff. And I bought an awful lot of Christmas decorations when I lived in Bath. So what I will say is that I haven't really ever, for years and years now, even if I've seen lovely Christmas decorations, my Christmas trees also got smaller and smaller as the years have gone on because my cottage is so little. When we were living in Bath, we had a slightly bigger house. And so the need for my Christmas decorations is, I never really put all the decorations on the tree anyway. I got very excited when I had to go looking for somebody else's Christmas decorations. And again, oh gosh, like I've fallen into Christmas and we said we wouldn't. I've just realised that. Sorry, everybody, sorry. But I have to tell you this, and it's absolutely fine. But I have found the most beautiful Victorian Christmas decorations. And actually, I will say I've done a lot of research on this, Grace, and it is really interesting. And I think I'm going to save part of this conversation for our Christmas special. But I'm going to tell you now, I have now found and done a lot of research into traditional Christmas decorations. So I feel like I'm poised ready for this Christmas bonanza recording that we're going to do.
I'm now thinking I want to know now because I want to order some, but
I think as an
I'm going to hold off.
Yeah. But basically my in has been a lot of research into Victorian Christmases, and it's really quite interesting what they did decorate their trees with. And also the fact that I now have found an incredible glass bauble supplier who, hand blown, very of the Victorian era, basically on replicas of that. And I will share more about that on our Christmas special. But all I can say is that the decorations have arrived and my small cottage is basically a danger zone for these glass baubles. I am really stressed about it. And the other part I've been doing is making loads and loads of orange garlands as well, which the dog has taken to thinking that they actually would be quite a nice snack.
Little snacks.
I can't believe that my dog literally, I opened up these orange slices and the dog went mad, drooling at me.
Funny.
I know. She has gone a bit bonkers because she is now 13. So she's a little bit on having a few she's a bit mental now, bless her. But so she thinks the whole hubbub of boxes coming and orange slices arriving is heaven for her. So my inn has been so much prep work, so much Christmas prep work. It is ridiculous. I'm going to be exhausted by December.
You are fully in the zone though, aren't you?
I know.
Fully in the zone.
And just to top it all off, I have actually bought myself. I don't know whether it's because I've been doing so much research into Victorian stuff. You will laugh at this. I have invested in a new white shirt with a pie crust. I literally look Dickensian.
We, for various, tech reasons, we film this without the cameras on, but we occasionally turn the cameras on by accident when we first start. And I just said, oh my goodness, you look beautiful. Very stylish white shirt.
Yeah, I'm going out for lunch, but I genuinely think it's because I've been looking at so much Victorian stuff. I'm like, I think I need a pie crust collar.
It's infiltrated your soul.
It has. So I have just purchased a really beautiful, it's from Brora.
Oh, nice.
I know, it is really lovely. It's a little bit of one of those investment buys, but it is lovely. And if anybody, like white shirts, it's double lined on the front and the back. So, bra issues. It's like you don't have them. Not that I have many bra issues. Yeah, it's lined. So you've got a thinner sleeve. It's very nice. I can highly recommend it. Yeah.
I could really get into white shirts, I think.
Yeah, I think you've said that before.
I got a lot of them, but none of them really fit me very well. White shirts, because I think they cover a lot of events, don't they, white shirts? Well, and I do a lot of sort of going to work and then doing something else without a lot of time window. So I do need a bit of
day to night.
Bit of flexibility.
Day to night. That's what it is. Day to night wardrobes.
Well, it's psychologist to florist.
Oh, psychologist to florist. I love that. Yeah, it is true though. But I think there is something in that, isn't there? That it is that time of year. It is that time of year where we're all doing quite a lot of stuff in the day, quite often then going out in the evening or later in the afternoon or whatever.
Oh, that's so funny you should say that, because Naomi's here and we've just been chatting. We're going to Rag of Colts event tomorrow, and I was sort of chuntering slightly because my husband's on nights and I was thinking about dog home. So it's 5 till 7. And I was like, that's amazing. Yeah. I can go straight from work and I'll be home by 8.
Yeah,
I love
those. I love those events. I absolutely love those events. They're really good, aren't they? So generally speaking, I've been spending a lot of money, is what the answer to my ins has been, which is
my favourite thing.
Yeah, which paid in the new year, that's for sure.
Well done for drawing me in to spend some more money on white shirts. I probably didn't need that, but yeah.
Sorry.
Do you want my in?
Yeah, I do want your in. Come on, Grace, tell me what you've been up to.
I've got a really funny in. Have you ever listened to the podcast Homing In?
No.
So, do you know The Modern House? And Inigo, who are the estate agents that do the most amazing, incredible, Modern House obviously does modern houses, and Inigo does.
Yeah.
Inigo and Inigo, I get this wrong every time. I read it as Inigo, but I think it might be Inigo.
Yeah.
And the blog for Inigo is incredible, and I have done a lot of pinning from their particular house tours and things like that. Anyway, the guy who runs the Modern House is a guy called Matt Gibbard. And he interviews people for his podcast. And there was a really interesting episode that I listened to last week with Kevin MacLeod, which was really fascinating. And John, again, thank you for recommending it months ago. Anyway, he did one with Nigel Slater yesterday. And a little while ago, he'd put something on his Instagram saying that he was going to be interviewing Nigel Slater and didn't have anyone have any questions. And I was like, I have questions. I really do have questions. Anyway, so Joanna messaged me whilst I was at work yesterday and said, oh my God, your question got asked. So
I love that. I love that same moment. Yeah.
So I was sat at work. I couldn't really listen to it at work. And I was just like, oh my goodness, isn't life funny?
Yeah.
Isn't life weird? So most people will know I see Nigel Slater as, you know, the template of many things creatively. And yeah, so two people sat in a room and recorded Nigel Slater answering my question
What
of
was
Nigel
your
Slater.
question? I kind of want to know now. I know I'm going to have to go and look it up. But what was your question?
I'm going to share a reel of it because I'm so excited that Nigel
Okay.
Slater listened to something that I had to say.
Oh, I love it.
So the question was, from the images, you know, where is his stuff? Because when you look at pictures of Nigel Slater's house, which I do a lot, can I just say, because it's one of the most beautiful houses in the world ever, both cooking and writing, probably more cooking than writing, come with a lot of detritus. Like there's a lot of stuff. There's notebooks and there's pens and there's laptop chargers and there's tech and there's, you know, in the kitchen, there's just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And I said, does he just put it all away every time the cameras come round? Or is that genuinely how he lives his life in this very Japanese minimalism style?
I get you.
And he sort of styled it out for the first answer and was like, oh no, everything's perfect. And I know exactly where everything is because I'm just like that. And then he sort of cracked and said, actually, I've got a room upstairs, which is just full of, I won't say the word, he said, full of stuff where you just have to climb over everything to find anything. And he said most Japanese houses are like that.
So they
I
have a bad room. They might have a really 90% great rooms, but there's one bad room. That reminds me of Monica from Friends with her ribbon drawer. You're not afraid.
The cupboard.
Yeah, the cupboard and the was it the cupboard or the ribbon drawer? I just remember
There's a cupboard.
there's a cupboard. That's it. It was Monica's cupboard. That's right. That's right. My friend who watches Friends would be screaming at me that I didn't get that right. Exactly. So there's always.
I'm embarrassed I did get that right, but I do know exactly what you mean.
When I think that's life, though, isn't it? I just don't think it can be 100%. That's the thing.
Yeah.
100%
That said-
tidy.
No one's going to be 100% tidy. Like that said, I have got, I think I mentioned this last podcast as well, I've got a week off work next week, and part of what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to clear out my wardrobe. I'm going to throw away every lone sock I've got. I'm going to shred bills that I've also got electronic copies of.
You're going zen.
I feel like I'm just so fed up of the detritus. Detritus is such a good word. The detritus of modern life, which just feels like I'm drowning in it sometimes.
I have a lovely edge of the dresser, and it is the perfect spot to put bills down the side. And I am the one that's guilty of doing it. I can't even blame anyone else. But because our house is so small, we don't have a study or an office or a spare room, or we don't have anything. We don't have a utility room. It is a very small two-room downstairs, straight in house, which means, shoes get piled in corners, and the paperwork, like you said, just so much paper. And I look at it and I'm like, do we need any of that? Although, actually, I'm going to go in with a bit of a horror that we had, because my husband's a New Zealander, and part of my stresses of leading up to this autumn, and I don't know, to have one of those years where there's just been one thing after another, but one of our slight dramas was that Andy has got leave to remain, and he's always had a stamp in his passport, and he carries his old passport and he carries a new passport. And then he changed jobs, and they said, oh no, we can't accept that. You need electronic version. Nobody has ever told us that. And this apparently came in last year. There's been nothing in the news about it, nothing at all. We had to download and find, because Andy's been in the country 23 years. 23 years proving that he's been in the country. You try looking for 23 years of bills. That's actually, and I was like, I haven't even got the electronic versions that go back that far, because if you change the bank account, you haven't got the electronic versions. So the only thing I will say is it's probably put my pile by the Kenwood mixer at double rate now, because I'm so worried I'm going to chuck. So I said to Andy, what are we going to do? We're going to basically, so we had to prove he'd been in this country every year for 23 years, even though actually he had leave to remain, and I don't think there was ever going to be an issue. But stupid things you have to do in life.
You hear horror stories.
You do. So I think it does feed into the ones that maybe have anxiety. So You could go down the Grace route, or you could look at what Becca's going to be doing now, which is basically keeping
Oh,
some
my
document
goodness.
for the rest of her life. Yeah, that's. What about your out? What about going
My
out?
out.
Have you been out? Have you been out into? You've been outside, obviously. I'm sure you've had now out as well.
I have.
Yeah. Which one are you
It's
going
not
to
quite
go?
as an exciting one this year.
No.
This week. Out is, and I think I don't want to nab your out, but I am going to go first. So I'm going to take it if it is yours as well. So I have lifted my dahlias. So I said on
Yeah.
Sunday in my weekly newsletter that I'd gone out with my fork to lift my dahlias, but because I'd had that wedding last one weekend, I've triggered such a flush of beautiful flowers. And when we had that gloomy bit, actually it was quite warm. And although we didn't have a lot of light, I did have a lot of flowers come through again, which I just couldn't bring myself to dig up at the time. But so I did give them a bit of a stay of execution. And actually some of my dahlias I don't lift, I should say.
I was going to
The
say,
ones
do you
that are
lift
quite
yours?
established,
Yeah.
I don't lift the ones that are sort of edged in the borders, but I have got a couple which, I'll be honest, they never flowered.
Oh.
They did not do anything. They got so hammered by the slugs. I have
Oh.
got plants which are 6 inches tall with leaves on. They've never flowered. They've not done anything. But I'm putting my faith in the tuber system
Yeah.
that even though this year they've done nothing, if I lift the tubers and I really look after them over the winter, and we'll start again with everything next year, hopefully when the ducks have arrived, then hopefully they will be fine for next year. And I'm just going to call it a year where they establish their root system.
What I would say
flowering.
on that, Grace, is that they would, for anyone that doesn't want to lift them, they would be fine not being lifted as well, as long as you're in an area that doesn't get a deep frost. And depending on what soil conditions you have, Jeff, for example, who
It's
lives...
more that they're in the wrong place, actually.
they're in the wrong place. Okay,
they're
fair
going
play.
to, they're in the ones that are in, there's a little courtyard under the apple tree by the studio, which is part of the hard landscaping. So it's actually going to have a hog in over it.
Okay.
So the ones that I don't need to move are going to stay where they are.
Yeah.
Although I do find that it's the wet rather than the cold.
It is.
That is the issue.
Yeah, I agree.
And what I'm more careful about, I think, is trying to get them thinking about when I do put them back in the ground next spring, that they're in an area I can really protect from slugs.
Yeah.
So maybe a bit further away from the orchards, maybe in areas where I can put rings around. If I mention this, we had a friend of ours donated, and we also had one from a cottage that we didn't need hot water in because we've got hot water in the other one, which we're going to pipe across. We've got a big hot water cylinder.
Yeah.
Which are made of copper.
I remember this, yes.
And so I've got 2 of those waiting to be sliced up into these massive rings, which will either have courgettes or dahlias in next year, because they're massive. They're sort of 2.5 foot across slug rings.
Yeah.
So I'm going aggressive on my slug management next year.
I just feel like we can't have another year like that with slugs. I think the problem is, what I'm hopeful, and which is why I'm pleased it has got colder, is we just need some frosts. And last winter, we just had so much wet. We had a wet summer, a wet winter.
Yeah.
And we didn't actually have that much, certainly here I didn't have that much frost at all. I think we had one or 2 weeks where it got cold, and that was enough. But yeah, I'm like you with my out. I've done something different. So I haven't lifted my dahlias. I've cut them all down because I think it was almost overnight. I went from picking outside. The ones that I'd say are still going are the Cafe LAs. They always seem to be the last ones to finish flowering. And I have got a wedding at the end of November, but I pretty much knew it was very unrealistic that there would be probably any outdoor dahlias. But they had absolutely slowed down. And even though there hasn't been a frost, it's interesting how blackened they have already got. They are dying. They are over.
Yeah.
So they got cut to the ground earlier this week, and I end up piling mulch, just some horse manure, that sort of thing, whatever, compost. To be honest with you, even chucking out your old pots, the soil from your old pots, and just chucking on like a molehill. That's what I tend to do. So I molehill it up, and then what I've done is I've added a whole nice deep bed of strolch on top. But I would say just be mindful of your soils. So Jeff, for example, we're Cornwall, so we're not ridiculously cold, but Jeff's got no subsoil, so his subsoil's really shallow, so then that's not great. Or do you have clay? If you've got heavy clay that gets waterlogged, like you said, they rot. I would say is where my land is a gentle slope. and it's a really deep. It's got the soil is incredible. It's just soil for miles. It's absolutely perfect for them, really. I'm fingers crossed it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, you just never know, though. You just don't know. But I also always scatter my risk by buying some new ones every year anyway. So trying to do both.
Because I think dahlias are a bit of a lottery.
They are.
Because I have had some that I've lifted and I have been so careful with them. I've cleaned them really carefully. I've dried them really carefully. I've left them upside down to make sure there's no moisture in the stems. I've packed them in hay or shavings. I've kept them, I've done everything right, and they've just not made it through.
Gone mushy or whatever.
That you can lift and take a risk, you can leave them in and take a risk. You've got to know your own soil and your own climate as well.
I think the other thing is when you're growing on a scale like I'm growing, there just isn't room from my point of view, there just isn't room to lift and store. That's my problem. Essentially, the labour cost versus also what am I going to do with them? Because what I would say is you can't store them in sheds where they freeze either. You need to store them somewhere where they are kept dry.
It's under your spare bed.
Yeah,
generally.
exactly. And that isn't going to happen in my... I don't have a spare room, and it's not going to happen under our bed either. But I've also been out moving out the ranunculus that I pre-sprouted.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I would say, again, it's a funny one because, do you know what? They're the spring version of... They always make me think when you see these little gnarly claws, they're like a mini version of a dahlia tuber, if you've ever seen them. Again, treated very similar. You can pre-sprout them, you can soak them, all that sort of stuff. I would say I've probably lost, I would think, about half, I would say, which is a bit annoying.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, I would say.
They just rotted?
They've rotted through. So I've taken them out, I've dried them. They've not rehydrated particularly well. They've gone quite mouldy. I've tried to keep them very dry. Yeah. I've kept them dry with vermiculite, not overwatered. We'll see. Maybe I started pre-sprouting them and I've probably not let them pre-sprout as much as I would have done in the dark. I've now pulled them out and they're in the greenhouse and I need to pot them on. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with... I love them in terms of a cut flower. Again, they're quite a lot of faff for me because they're very early in the season and they need a lot of attention early in the season, which generally speaking, my weddings don't kick off till May. I maybe might get one wedding in February, one wedding in April or something, if I'm lucky. But I really go gung-ho in May. But as it happens this year, the year that I didn't spend as much on tulip bulbs, because for years of losing money buying tulip bulbs, and now and the whole ranunculus scenario, I've got 3 weddings, amazing weddings in April. That's a good note to somebody that wants to get work.
Not too late to get some more tulips, though.
Well, it isn't, but there is an amazing company called Smith & Munson as well that does a fabulous cut tulips, and that if anybody is growing tulips commercially or provide like I am growing and doing floristry, I always grow ones that I can't buy, but it's so difficult because you can't hold back a tulip. Yes, you can move it out. I put them in pots so you can move them out of the sunlight to preserve them a little bit, but they come when they come. There's no sort of bringing them on early.
There's no successional sowings.
There really isn't. So they are an incredibly expensive product. And the wonderful thing about Smith & Munson now that they're doing some really good tulips now is that actually it almost makes it much better for me to buy my tulips, a good bulk of tulips cut from them. And again, supporting another great grower, British grower as well at the same time. So I do a bit of both really, which I find works really well. So it's good. It's good.
I'm holding off on my tulips. I
haven't done mine yet. Still haven't done them. No, still haven't done them.
No, this slightly relates embarrassingly to my in about clutter and stuff. And I was thinking, because of my organic status, I did say I'm not going to buy in any more tulip bulbs.
Yeah.
But I knew I'd grown about 250 Dom Pedro last year, which I'd lifted. Yeah. I was thinking, did I lift them? What have I done with it? Anyway,
oh, no.
So I was prepping for the Gather Christmas shop and I've got a massive box of Niwaki tools and hori-hori knives and stuff. I thought, I'm sure I've got some boxes left. And I was pulling out boxes of snips and stuff. And I opened one of the hori-hori knife box.
And in there,
it's full of tulip bulbs.
Love it.
It's just like,
that's like Christmas.
Swimming.
Yeah. I love that.
It's where I put them.
But you can use like dry again. It's the whole... it terrifies me with the tulip bulbs, but you're just drying them dry.
They're in the studio, which is very insulated. Hilariously,
Okay.
When it's warmer than the house, yes. But what I did do slightly under the guidance of Polly Nicholson of Bainton Flowers, who wrote an amazing tulip book last year, is I am growing them on. So there are lots of them that I lifted that are they're bulbils, so they're the sort of offshoot ones, which probably won't flower this year, but I'll grow them again this year.
Yeah.
They'll send up a leaf, I'll feed them, and then hopefully they'll set a flowerable bulb for next year. So
gosh.
I'm trying to expand my stock a little bit.
Oh, there's a whole podcast in that, isn't there? Yeah. So what about out?
Well, my out is, you'll be thrilled to hear, is a less glamorous one, but I think a no less important one.
Yeah.
So my out this week was an exciting trip to Musgrove Park Hospital, which is my local hospital, to go to the breast clinic. And I think you are one of the few people that I told about this.
Yeah.
So if you are a friend or family member that didn't know about this until you're listening to this, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I didn't tell really anyone. Not because I was particularly worried about it, because I was fairly sure it was nothing and I really didn't want to make a fuss. But I did think once I'd been there were so many little things that I wish somebody had shared with me, because the letter that I got in the post was just literally the time and the date and a map.
Yeah.
And my first point, if you have any appointment at a hospital, breast lump related or otherwise, the maps are dreadful.
Yeah.
The maps about how, I've got a really good sense of direction. I never get lost. Pretty good at orientating myself in time and space. And my husband was at work at the hospital. And he said, "Why did you walk past the window on the wrong side of the hospital?" Because he knew where I'd parked and he knew where I was going. And I said, "Well, because I was completely lost."
Yeah.
Which, when you're a little bit anxious and a bit stressed, is not a good thing. So, number one, leave lots of extra time for parking, because parking is always a nightmare in hospitals, and also leave a lot of extra time for just finding your way around.
Yeah.
And don't trust the map that they give you. So that's my first point. Chip in, because I know you've got some experience with these sorts of things as well.
So I've got too much experience, unfortunately, carrying the BRCA gene that I carry. Exactly. But yeah, I told you about the book, didn't I? Because those appointments...
You did tell me about the book.
They're kind of discovery appointments, aren't they? They're not like... I know from having gone myself, and I think I said this to you, but I wasn't sure what I think also every hospital probably deals with patients differently, but ours is, I would call it the discovery. So you go in, you go out, back into the waiting room, you go in again to somewhere else and you go back out.
Yep.
Was that the same?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
so you're
it
in
was.
and out like a yo.
Yeah. So that brings me to my second point, which is, yes, absolutely take a book, because there's lots of sort of sitting around in between. And they did warn me that it was going to take 3 hours, and that's fine. But what I didn't think was, because it's so unpredictable, you can't go off and get a cup of tea.
No.
Because the place to go and get tea is about, well, I wasn't sure I'd ever make it back to just disappear into the bowels of the hospital. But yeah, it's not like you have one appointment at 9, one at 9:45, one at 10. It's literally, you're just waiting for the next sort of slot of
the next door,
your mammogram, and then an ultrasound, and then the surgeon. And so take
Chris,
snacks.
did they not have... So I'm very lucky. So I'm Cornwall, so it's Trellis, and we've got the Mermaid Centre. And what I will say is they've got a little kitchen patch. Honestly, the most incredible volunteers that run it, ladies, and honestly, you can't sit down before they're over to you asking you, would you like a cup of tea or a hot chocolate or a coffee?
Oh,
I know.
no.
And they come around with a little tray for you. And they'll sit and chat to you as well. And massive shout out to them at the Mermaid Centre, because, yeah, it is those little things, isn't it? Like just being able to have a cup of tea.
At 10:30, I was desperate for a cup of tea,
Oh, you
but I
poor
didn't dare
thing.
go
Do you know,
anywhere.
I didn't suggest that because I just presumed.
Well, you've got...
Yeah, I just presumed.
There would be a lady
I presumed
or
there'd
a
be a
gentleman.
lady or yeah, I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
The kettle and a teapot.
Yes.
No, that's so that's my second tip is, make sure you take sustenance with you, because it's very unpredictable. My third tip is, slightly linking back to where we work, if you haven't got a shirt, buy a shirt. Like, shirts, the only thing to wear to these sorts of things.
Yeah.
In the same way as, the only time I put a skirt on is for a smear test. The only time I've ever worn a shirt, out and about without a jumper over the top was absolutely for this.
Yeah.
Because you just need,
It's interesting. Again, in the Mermaid Centre, they give you like a cape, but
oh,
yeah,
gosh.
I'm
coming to you next time.
Yeah, funny enough, I didn't. Again, I didn't think, but yeah, you're right. You feel very naked very easily in those situations. Definitely, like you said, wearing jeans or don't go in a jumpsuit, basically, is the answer.
No, they did say, when people could turn up in a dress, they always know it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
So I chose trousers that were slightly too big for me. So I feel really self-conscious about a muffin top, and I was standing there topless in front of strangers, and a slightly bigger than usual shirt, so you can sort of drape it round you a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But honestly, by the time I'd done it for the third time, I didn't care anymore.
No.
And I'm sure the first time it was a lot. So so those are my 3 tips.
Most importantly, everything's all right, isn't it, Grace? Everything is
everything's
okay.
absolutely fine.
Great.
Everything is absolutely fine. No idea what the actual thing was, but apparently it's nothing to worry about. So that's
good.
Really.
No, and what I will chip in, what I will chip in and say is, both you and I are not old women, are we? We're both pre-mammogram age, and I just want to give a real shout out because it's really important. You can get breast cancer at a really young age. Please, whatever age you are, if you find a lump or something is unusual under your arm, on your neck, in your breast, please go to your GP and do not take no for an answer. That's the other thing I will say, is that my niece, young, 22, was pushed away and told it was nothing. And it was only because of our family history that I said, no, you have to go again. There is an incredible charity called Copperfield. I will put it into the show notes. And on the 1st of every month, that is a really good time to check your breasts, check under your arms, stand and look in the mirror as well. Look in the mirror and back at yourself and see, is there anything different this month to last month? And Copperfield, if you're not sure how to check your breasts, Copperfield have every single tutorial, everything you ever need to do a breast check. So please, 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 please tell all your female friends, tell your nieces, tell your daughters that it is really important. And if you know your own body and you know whether it's right or wrong, you are the best judge. Don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the GP that I saw was not my usual GP.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any question. It was literally, as soon as I'd sort of said, I've got a bit of he did a bit of an examination, and then, but it was a bit like, once I'd said the words, I was on the 2-week wait straight away, pretty much.
Yes.
It was over 2 weeks by the time I got there, and the waiting wasn't brilliant, I have to say, but
waiting is the worst. Fine. Waiting is the worst. I think that's the other thing, is that the unknown, those really drip by really badly. That's the trouble. Like I said to you, I carry the BRCA gene. I've got a BRCA2 gene, so a really terrible breast cancer history in our family. And unfortunately, even now that I've had double mastectomies, I think I had my double mastectomy when I was 31. What I will say is, even any lump I get under my arm, and I get a lot of lymph nodes come up. So if you're a very small frame, you can feel lymph nodes really easily under your arms and things like that. But and obviously come up when you've got an infection or you're unwell. Yeah. I am, unfortunately, whenever anything like that comes up, I'm straight in and having had to have it checked. But funny enough, I've got my annual breast checkup next week. So I shall be going to the Mermaid Centre next week. And I will be very grateful to those ladies that will offer me a cup of tea.
Yes, absolutely. And you can go in your beautiful Brora high-frill Cornish shirt.
There are multiple reasons why this is a great investment. I didn't even think of the breast check for that being the good reason. Yeah, I don't feel guilty at all of buying it. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm delighted about that. And I think it's a really important topic. Like I said, it will be in the show notes, the Copperfield charities.
And give us a more glamorous.
I will give you, we will end on a slightly more, a fun trip out, which was, I got invited to Sabsi's 5th birthday party. Now, Sabsi is a beautiful restaurant, a bit cafe restaurant, amazing food. She's Iranian, and it's all incredible, all vegetarian, fabulous, really. It's not vegan, but she will do things. There are certain salads that you don't have. And it's basically all based around lunchboxes, essentially. It started off in Truro it's a tiny little shop, which has only got a few seats in it, but she's now actually got a seating area in the shop next door she's taken to expand Truro slightly. She's also, I couldn't believe the statistics, actually, when you consider the climate we're in. She's 5 years, so she started just before lockdown, okay? What a year to start. But in those 5 years, she's got Truro, Nansledden, and now Padstow as well. She opened Padstow and Nansledden at the same time. I think they've now been open just over a year. So that's 3 shops, and she's about to open, or in the negotiations of opening, another one. So, and she's got something like 40 odd staff. What a story that is.
Amazing.
What a story that is for hospitality growing.
Yeah.
She's an incredibly astute businesswoman, youngish lady Kate is. And obviously, and I would say predominantly employs women. She's got a real strong force of women behind her who she's obviously majorly empowered to run things. Hilariously, just after the pandemic, Finley and my 2 boys, Finley and Noah, Finley was at secondary school, and we went into Truro, Sabsea, and this very young blonde lady was serving, very beautiful lady, and she said, "Oh," and Finley had his friend with it, "Hi, Sin, hi, Fred, how are you?" And I thought, who on earth's talking to my 13-year-old boy? This lovely, don't know how much older woman. And I think she could see my face, like, how does my son know you? And he said, "Oh, I was their English teacher at their school." And she left teaching to go and work with Kate. So
Goodness.
so she's now, I think, her right-hand woman, from what I could tell. But basically, the food is just, it's all seasonal. A lot of it's Cornish. So beautiful raw food as well, things like the broccoli and things like that, massaged. I love that, massaged broccoli. And you would love it. And there's always potatoes there. Are you looking at it now? It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And then she does things like love cakes and, I don't know, tahini buns and it. And
no, I've got this wrong. No, that's Romford. What's it?
Sabsea, Sabzi. I think it's Sabsea. Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes. And she does the most. So the other thing is she also does, though, have a deli, and she imports every time at Christmas the most incredible panettones. Again, this is Christmas. How do I keep doing this? But they are Dolce Gabbana tins, hand-painted and replica. Bespoke tins for these panettones. They are beautiful. If you ever wanted to give a gift to somebody that loves baking, getting one of those for them to have the tin afterwards is incredible.
So I'm sorry to her if it's very Ottolenghi.
Oh, it is very Ottolenghi. If you like Ottolenghi, look.
And she's got an online shop. I'm looking at it now. She's now got an online shop.
Yeah, she's only just launched an online shop. It's very new. This woman is a powerhouse. She's got 2 young girls. Hats off to her that she's achieved all this in 5 years. So I was invited to her 5th birthday party, which they celebrated at Nansledden, with about 200 guests, which she fed, and with champagne flowing. And it was just a lovely evening. I bumped into Alice from Alice in Scandyland, who's the lovely Swithiel, which is always lovely when you see other suppliers there. I just really, I feel really, I don't know, warm and fuzzy that somebody like Kate in Cornwall, which is really seasonal, really hard work in the hospitality industry is hard work. And also anything in Cornwall, making it work year round, employing these staff, employing a stronghold of 40 staff members year round. Hats off to her. Congratulations. So huge shout out to her. If you are ever down in Cornwall, they are just around. Falmouth, sorry, I missed Falmouth. Sorry.
You did miss Falmouth?
I missed Falmouth.
Because
Falmouth is lovely. So it's got waterfront view. Yeah.
My father-in-law lives in Falmouth.
Yes.
And we have just been talking about how we really should go and visit.
Yes.
Or have him up here. And I think you've just
you will love
swung it for him.
Yeah, you will love it. Honestly, yes. I don't know how I forgot Falmouth because I think it went Padstow. Sorry, I think it went Falmouth, then Nansledden, then Padstow. I think I've got that right way. Hopefully Kate won't kill me if she hears this. But yeah, it is really amazing. And the other thing that took me really by surprise when I first met Kate, because I met her really through going in and eating her food. And then I followed her, she followed my business and stuff. And I love that when you build relationships through almost women in business, it's fantastic. She was incredibly astute at remembering people. And I think that's a real art in itself. I would go in to Truro, and bearing in mind, I will say I don't live that near to Truro, and I don't go in that often. But she would say, "Oh, hello, Becca, how are you?" And I'd be like, "But she knows my name. How does she know that?" But it wasn't just me. She welcomed people into her shop in such a manner that I just thought, you don't often get that either. You don't get that. And she does a lot of her talk was about her amazing team, but actually also about her amazing loyal customer following, which I think she's got an incredibly loyal customer following. But she's built that good relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I am just looking at some of the images on our bit. There's a lovely post about UPFs actually, and how much effort they put into doing everything from scratch. Particularly, you know, vegan and vegetarian food is often you can have that really awful. You can have things that slip in because people are trying to make it like non-vegan food, but vegan.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's only because I've got lots of other stuff booked today that I'm not getting in my car and driving to Falmouth right now.
You would love it. It's funny enough, I'll leave it with one of the quotes she was saying was all the things on the statistics of how many potatoes they've gone from ordering in to how many potatoes they've got now. And I think their order of the panettones has gone up by like literally 10,000. It was unbelievable. So she is real. Anybody starting a new business in Cornwall or looking at a startup, go and look at Sabzi and go and see. She's an inspiration to how you can grow. Because I think that's the other thing as well, is that I think we talk about that a lot, or I have certainly talked about that a lot in terms of what I do. How do you grow your business? It's a really difficult thing. And a lot of that, and I'm massively guilty for it, is not having the ability to let go. And I think when you are wanting to do what you're doing, you do have to empower other people to be incredibly successful with you. And I just feel like that's probably the big trigger point. I'm sure there's lots of other elements to this. Empowering other people to feel really important within the business. I can see that it just oozes in those shops you go into. So yes, go to Falmouth, please, and tell me what you think.
I'm literally on my way.
I know.
So my lunches are generally, I eat, I'm so pretentious, I'm so sorry. I eat a lot out of glass jars. So I make a lot of those mason jar salads.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sort of funny, it feels too cold for just salad now.
Yeah.
And so I have been thinking about, I'm having a lot of soup for lunch at the moment, which you can also put in a jar and take to work and things like that. But that really amazing like belly box with lots of grated carrots, salads and herby potatoes and hummus on the top. Oh my God, I'm just...
All I would say
my dream
is
food.
If Kate is listening to this and it did come up on the night, the celebration night, we all want a book. Please, Kate.
Yes.
Write a book.
Yes.
But I mean, if anyone has ever looked at an Ottolenghi recipe, there is a reason why I only have the cookbook but never cook from it, because the amount of ingredients is just ridiculous. So maybe my comfort is still going to Kate. But yeah, I think Kate needs a cookbook.
Letting the expert do it.
Let the expert do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But on that note, I suppose I better go off and do all the jobs I've got to do, because I'm on and out for lunch today, which I'm no doubt I'll talk about next week.
We rock and roll.
Also, I've got a garden visit that I'm saving for next week. I will tell you about that, next on episode 8.
Lovely. Yeah, well, I'm going to go and put some thicker socks on because it's actually chillier than it looks today. And yeah, I'm going to go and do my dahlias. Finish them off.
Lovely to chat to you, Grace. You take care.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.